Hi folks, today's video is all about high gain and it's a little bit clickbaity in the title, but this I hope is of use to a lot of people who play rock and metal and use high gain. Doesn't matter if it's amplifiers, effects pedals or amp modelers. This guideline, I won't say rule, this guideline I think stays true. Now, the example I'm going to use is using this PV Ultra Plus. No sound samples today, there's no need. Massive amounts of gain from this amplifier. And what I've found since I've got it, and I've also noticed whenever I'm using the lead channel in that Bugera or the overdrive channel of the Jet City, is my guitar choice changes. I don't tend to favour any of my guitars with high output humbuckers, and that can be the ones I've got a couple with Seymour Duncan JBs. I've got one with a distortion, Dimarzio Tone Zone, Dimarzio Evolutions. The one I had with EMG 8185s I actually got rid of, and the ones that work best is subjective, but for my ears tends to be this Wolfgang standard and this Ibanez RGR with a Dimarzio PAF Pro in the bridge. Now the PAF Pro is not a high output humbucker, it's a medium. The bridge pickup in the Wolfgang is a medium. And this is where the penny dropped, and way back in my distant memory, I managed to put back together something I had read when they were designing, I think it was this, or it could have been the PV version way back in the 90s. I used to own one of those as well. And it was when Edward Van Halen was getting the pickups designed. They're not super high output. And it seemed counterintuitive at the time. You think, well, I want more gain. I need more gain. I'm going to have a high output pickup, hitting a boost pedal, hitting the front of that amp and giving me searing high gain tones. But in actual fact, he went slightly the other way. And I'll explain why. Back in the day, 1970s, you didn't have amps with a huge amount of gain. Even in the early 80s, you had JCM 800s. Growly, crunchy, but not the searing metal gain tones that we're used to today. So what they did was, boost pedals were good, yep. You want to slam that with a bit more signal, and that works really well. And along came the pickup designers with the hot-rodded humbuckers. Seymour Duncan, Dimarzio started it off, EMG came along. And you went from Gibson-style PAF output pickups to things that had double the power, double the output. So you had more signal hitting the front of that amplifier and driving it harder, giving you more saturation. Works beautifully. That there PV Windsor is essentially a JCM 800, slightly hot-rodded, but it's in that ballpark of tone. And it's exactly the same. If I take something like my Kramer Pacer with the JB into a Boss SD1 and into that, you have Zakk Wylde No More Tears tones for days. Shove on a bit of Dimension C or a chorus and you're just there. But that guitar plugged into this amp actually sounds a bit boxy, a bit closed off, super saturated, quite dark, but it's not inspiring to me, it's not pleasing. Whereas this was harmonically rich. The PAF Pro was harmonically rich. And this is where the penny dropped, really. That when I'm using high gain, it works much better when I'm hitting that with a lower output pickup. Let the amp do the work. But if I'm using medium gained amplifiers, let the guitar do some of the heavy lifting. And that's essentially it. And yep, clickbait time, Edward Van Halen was absolutely spot on, because when he was developing this guitar or the Wolfgang, or even back in the day when it was the Ernie Ball, the pickup used was not super high output. It didn't need to be, because the amplifier has all the gain in the world. You don't need to actually add more gain. You need to shape what you've got. And using an overdrive pedal will do that, but the pickup is really the first port of call. Something that's a huge high output pickup hitting a huge amount of gain is just going to start crushing and crushing and crushing your signal. It's just going to get so saturated that you lose all the definition. And definition is what makes things sound big. So, in conclusion, and I'm going to just go to a conclusion within like 10 minutes, which is great for me. If you're using high gain, I would like you to try a lower output pickup, or if you don't have a lower output pickup, get out the screwdriver and lower the pickup you have away from the strings, and spend a bit of time living with that and see how it works for you, and see how it works in a band context as well. You might feel as if you've not got the sustain that will last for forever, but as the volume goes up, you will be absolutely fine. But just having this punch and this clarity will get you heard. So I would like to hear what you think, and if you've tried this and if you've had results yourself. But if you're finding with a modern amp, and I was struggling at times with this, I'll say even after 3 decades of playing with these things, I had to go back and realise I had too much of a good thing. I had too much gain, too much signal. And I got better results having more gain on the amp, but less of an output from the guitar hitting that. Let the amp do the lifting. And it turned out great. Absolutely fantastic. So, that's it for today. Let me know what you think. Let me know how you get on with this. Please go and try, for the sake of getting a screwdriver and just lowering your pickup down, and live with it for a wee while and see how you get on with it. I'd be very interested, and I hope you get the results that I've had by doing this. Yes, no sound samples today, because in actual fact, using the mic I've got, it's so subtle that I find it hard to record and get the sound to come across. But in the room, I noticed it clear as day. It just works great. And if I was playing along to anything in here, when I had a backing track on, again, it just jumped out. And that's what you want. That's what I want. That's what anybody playing live wants. That's what anyone recording wants. You want to be heard. You want it to cut through. And if you're using a lot of gain, having a lower output pickup is really the first port of call for me now. I don't mean super low, medium, less bottom end. PAF Pro worked great. Wolfgang worked great. Seymour Duncan JB, less so. So, there we go for today. Thank you very much, and please like, subscribe and comment below. Bye bye.